Hey everyone, we're sitting down with Julian Margules from Margules Audio Group here at Axpona 2025, where he has an amazing room set up with equipment that is affordable. Julian, how are you today, man?
How are you?
We're doing
Thank you
good.
for coming by.
How's the show been for you so far?
It has been quite crowded. We have been having good acceptance, and we are quite happy.
And what exactly do you have on display here at Axpona?
Well, we have basically the line that we import into the US, that's imported by Bruce Ball Distribution. And we have an integrated amplifier, tube integrated amplifier. We have a headphone amplifier. We have the headphones. We have the two speakers, which are quite new, the Century line. It's called Century because it's going to be 100 years old, the company. And we have the amplifiers, the U280s, which are the flagship from our company. We have the preamplifier, we have a music server, a phono stage, and basically that's what we have in display.
So you have essentially a complete system ready to go, that if somebody would buy everything in this room that you have on display, they have virtually everything you need except for maybe plugging into a turntable. Is that correct?
Well, we do have turntables as well. Yes, we try to have a complete system so we can guarantee the performance we are looking for.
And your room here is really designed on something that I would call is approachable. For everything that you just mentioned that you have on demonstration, if somebody said, hey, I love the sound, I want to be able to buy it today, what are they thinking from a starting point?
Well, we have systems that goes from very few thousands of dollars, to probably $20,000 the complete system, up to $100,000.
Thank you, Julian. Normally I don't start out with talking about price, but there's a reason why I wanted to start there, is because when you go to a hi-fi show, something like Axpona, a lot of the rooms are unapproachable by people that have constraints in their budgets. You're talking about $100,000, $200,000 speakers, $100,000, $200,000 amplifiers, and you come sit in the room and what you're missing sometimes is the engaging sound. I feel like when you go to a lot of rooms, it's really cool to look at their technology. It's really cool to look at the ingenuity behind a lot of these really super high-end devices. But when you listen to them, I don't know, I've always felt like something was lacking in the music, in feeling like the artist is in the room with you. And I know there's challenges with dealing with these square rooms, etc. But why I asked to have an interview with you is because this is probably the best sounding room here in the show. If I could give you an award, I would. And I'm so curious to understand your approach in making devices, because you kind of break the mold. You're not doing things the way that everybody else does it. So can you talk a little bit about your unique technology and how you get engaging sound from your components?
That's a good point. Yeah, we basically work a lot around the engineering and designing, because we do believe that there is many ways of solving a problem. So we found out that there is a lack of consistency between what we measure and how we design things, how we perceive them. Until now, we have been measuring like we did it like 100 years ago. So it does not comply our perception with our experience. So there was something wrong over there. So we start working and trying to understand why is this difference that has been known by the audiophiles and the people that they are, audio critics and are looking for this live sound and engaging sound that you are talking. So that's how we developed what we call ANA technology, which has to do with acoustic neuroalignment. And the idea is to understand how we perceive sounds. And happens to be that we put attention to near-field sounds. Near-field sounds are the characteristics. The characteristic it has is that all the harmonics is that waves that they go together with the fundamentals. So let me go a little bit more in depth into that. When you take a guitar and you pull the string, you create a wave in the string, but that reflects in the upper parts and also vibrates the box. So that creates multiples of waves added to the original ones. That are the harmonics, which gives
that's
you.
What we experienced. That's
That's
in a live instrument. That's
the difference between a guitar and a violin or a piano. It can be the fundamental note, which is the lower one, that will give it will be the one that will give you like as I tell you, the C or whatever. Right. So this fundamental tone is accompanied with several other waves that will give the characteristics of a piano or a violin or whatever. But happens to be that if you're playing a C in the middle of the piano, it's 440 cycles where it's tuned the orchestra, and you take the 440 cycles away, you're still hearing that C. So that means that the fundamental is not so important. So a characteristic of a near-field sound that engages our brain to it in order to survive, we as an animals, we have to be able to discern between far-field sounds and near-field sounds. That far-field sounds do not affect us immediately, but the near-field sounds, yes. So the characteristic of a near-field sound is that you create an engagement, and also the difference between this the far-field sound and near-field sound is the harmonic structure. In the moment that the sound is born, all the waves are created along with the fundamental, and that gives you the position, the information of the position also, as well as the tonality. So until today, everything was designed and around the fundamental, which doesn't give you our information. When we measure total harmonic distortion or harmonic distortion, is the fundamental with how much added other waves are added to the signal. So that's how we measure it and we design. So it happens to be that when we measure and when we design something and we want to have it low distortion, we use correction circuits, because we only are approaching the design through the view of a fundamental note. And that happens to be not too correct. That's why our measurements do not comply. Or at least this is my proposition, because we are still researching in that and all our philosophies around that. So instead of using correction circuits that correct something that was wrong and works very well for a fundamental, but does not work when we are talking about a complex signal, like it is like an instrument or anything that that makes sound, has to go with all the harmonics, and the harmonics should be taken care. So this procedure of measuring and designing around a fundamental doesn't work. So we need to get a different way of solving the problem. So we develop different circuits that they are more around control instead of correction. So you would see that they are totally different topologies. So if you hear them, it's a much more natural sounding. It's not like, tube sounding. I don't like to say tube sounding. You want a realistic sound that will create an engagement. Audiophiles has this tend to say that you want to recreate, the nature of a violin in a natural way.
Right.
Yeah, but a violin can sound very nice in one room, and you take it to the bathroom, and it will be the same violin and won't create this engagement.
This is true.
It will be horrible, no? So you need to create engagement and the feeling of a communication between the listener and the player. So in order to do that, you have to create engagement, and engagement is created through this perception of a near-field sound, and when you reproduce properly the harmonics, you would have this kind of tonality. That implies many things in engineering. That changes completely the idea of how you are going to be solving different problems.
And this isn't something you're doing digitally. This is something that is built into the components in engineering. Is that correct?
No, it's not in the digital domain. It's basically in the analog domain. Digital is quite well solved.
Yeah.
So what you see the difference within our line, it's in the analog domain and the power supplies, because the power supplies are the ones that are the reference for the circuitry. So they can't also have correction circuits. They need to be controlled circuits.
Gotcha.
So that's why we use shunt power supplies and things like that. We do not use negative feedback. And it's well-known aspect of why a circuit or an amplifier with feedback tends to sound harsh, because you are changing the tonal characteristics of the content of the harmonics on the signal.
Mm. So let me ask you then, and I'm going to go back to a little bit of my opening statement. There's hundreds of rooms here at this show. It's a big show, and everybody's here. They all have their listening rooms. Why is it that this room, which is a 10 by 10 box with no room acoustic treatment, sounds so engaging? Is it just purely Anna? Is there something else going on here? I mean, how come your system sounds so nice, so engaging? I mean, let me just try to explain to the viewer. When you're listening to the music here, there's so much space. There's so much detail. We were listening to the tracks with a female singer. You can literally hear her moist lips singing the notes. It was that intimate of an engagement, which blows my mind to be able to hear that type of detail and realism in the room that, quite frankly, is not treated for sound. This room is not designed for that. So what's the magic? Is it just purely Anna? But how are you achieving that in this space? And would people get that same experience at home?
Thank you for your comments. Yeah, it's basically about Anna. As you saw, all the equipment is from us, so we have control over it. We also can partner with any other companies that do things, like speakers properly, that they do, things that most audiophiles would know how to do it with a correct crossover, which is a very critical component, and matching the elements. So yes, it takes us a while to set up the room, because yes, we do have a lot of problems. It's a square room with a lot of standing waves that creates these peaks and valleys that changes the tonality. But after all, if you control a big part of the chain, it's always helpful.
Well, the reason I want to double click on that is because a lot of folks at home, this is what they have. This is their listening space. They convert a bedroom or they convert an office into a listening space. And if you're in a home, sometimes you can't treat the whole room acoustically, so you have to live with it. And if you are investing in audio, you want something that's going to sound great when you're done the investment. When you get everything hooked up and ready to go, you want it to sound great. So I think this is real. This is like a real test on what people would get at home.
You have a good point, because a stereo system is something that you would live with it, and it's like part of your life and daily life, and also the environment that you create around it.
Right.
So also we put a lot of attention into the design thing. We have a team of designers, which I feel quite proud, because the leading designer today is my daughter, and as you can see, the sound and also the looks go together. It's very organic. All the designs, we use elements that do not pollute. We do not use solvents and materials like that.
Can you talk a little bit about the materials, though? Because aesthetically, everything's gorgeous.
Yeah, we use natural woods that you see, and we do not use paints with solvents. Everything is treated with oil. So even if you scratch it, you can sand it and put some oil over it, and that's it. So everything that you see is very organic, and also gives you this perception of naturalness, and you put it into your environment and doesn't shout at you. It melts into your environment, into your ambient. So also it has a lot of technical back in how we design things. If you see, the speaker has no edges to avoid this edge diffraction, has a very stiff construction, and you put it into your home, and it will live in basically any decoration. It will be part of the environment. It will melt into it, and it will be like a wife approval factor.
Spouse approval. Yeah.
Yeah. And also the amplifiers are very nice and organic. So everything's is like, you know, it's made from humans to humans, and it's, you know, the way that we want to live and how I like things, you know.
It's sexy. I'm going to say the word. It's sexy. The equipment is sexy. It would be a piece, and we're going to overlay some photos here, but it's going to be a piece that I think is going to be a talking point. If you had this in your home, in your living room or in your listening room, people are going to ask questions about it. It's going to be engaging part of the conversation for sure.
Yeah, it's part of it, and also we partner with a lot of painters and, you know, aesthetic designers, and as well very famous artists that we work with them, and we have even pieces that they are painted, or they were treated by these very famous painters down in south the border. So, you know, we like this the part of the aesthetics, because we believe that, you know, it's senses. Life is about what we sense around it. So sound is a very, very important matter, more than most people understand. Yeah. But also the eyes, you know, when you see something nice, you enjoy it. When you hear something nice, you enjoy it. So it's part of the joy of life, you know, it's part of your way of living, and this gives you, you know, the adventure of the life, gives you, it goes with you, it accompanies you to give you this feeling and this warmth that we should all have, and you know, this trip that we all have, it makes it a much more pleasant and enjoyable. And also because we are reproducing music, it comes from the soul, so it has to be from soul to soul. It's a way of communicating. So the idea is that we please the senses, that gives us this ability to understand somebody else.
Yeah, I love that. It's you have to create that environment, and this allows you to immerse yourself in beautiful things.
Yeah, and also it's the way, you know, humans, we need to communicate, and art is part of the communication. It's basically communication. So we want to be a part of your life and enjoy, you know, enjoy a little bit what we are here when we are.
Short period of time that we have together, right?
Yeah, right. It's a little bit philosophical, but
yeah. Julian, you were talking a little bit about the speakers. Can you share some details about the amps? Because the amps are absolutely gorgeous. I love the tube glow, and there's some unique stuff going on there that I don't think most people that are used to tubes, like the heat, are going to be used to. I think you're doing some magic here.
Well, our tube design, it's not, as we spoke, it's not very, well, it's totally out of the box. We as I told you, we believe in control. So yeah, it's a full Class A amplifier, which is a very rare thing. It has the thermal efficiency of a Class AB, which means you have a lot of power, and the energy, you don't waste as much energy. Also, the life expectancy, because of the control circuit, is much more higher than would be expected from a regular tube amplifier. And it requires no maintenance except changing the tube from time to time, like changing the brake pads in your car. Right. So, and you don't need to do any adjustments. Most of the amplifiers out there, you need to do adjustments because tube changes while it is aging. And in our case, you don't need to do absolutely nothing. We try to do things very practical, that, you know, that people doesn't get into troubles, doesn't give problems to the end user. You bring it home, you plug it in, and you are in business.
It's like almost having the solid state experience, but with tube equipment. Almost,
yeah,
almost. I know I'm blurring lines here, but almost.
Yeah, basically you don't need to do any maintenance, you know. You just press the red button and
you're enjoying
and
music.
And wait 3 minutes, because that's the number that we choose.
But I mean, I think I wanted to get that across, because first off, I mean, the fact that you can touch the tubes when they're on and not burn yourself is awesome. Like they run cool.
Yeah,
they're a little like room temperature. Right?
Yeah, they get a little bit hotter, yes, but they won't burn you.
But yeah, for a Class A, it's almost like you need an air conditioning in a room because if you have a bunch of Class A stuff, it just heats up the room so much. But you're not getting that here.
No, because the bias is not set by the tube; it's set by the signal. So I can do whatever, and also you see the dynamics that you get out of it with a small amplifier. So you have a very big sound, full of details, and you are not burning the tubes, neither your wallet with your electric bills.
Exactly, or on having to replace tubes. You're going to replace them a lot less often with these. They're going to have extended life, which is also amazing for people who love tubes but happen to go through that process of buying them, matching them, replacing them.
No, you don't need to match them.
You don't need to do that here, which is great.
Yeah, it's everything done. It's not. It's not because the way that it is, because it is way it's built. You don't need these kind of adjustments, and also it will last longer. And for people that they are not experienced, it's very, very simple.
I guess where I'm trying to get to, right? It's almost like if you appreciate beautiful sound and the realism that comes with having a nice audio system, and you're not into it. You're not going to go do tube rolling and all these other things. Like it just gives you almost a plug and play experience. It's very approachable for anyone to get involved with.
Correct. Yeah. We look very much into that easiness.
It's the experience.
Yeah, and easiness. That your wife will also be part of the enjoyment.
Right.
Your sons will be part of the enjoyment. Your kids needs to get involved with music. That creates people that is more sensible to their surroundings.
Yeah, it makes sense. And can you talk a little bit about your streamer as well?
Yeah, this streamer it's a piece that allows you basically to solve all your digital things. It has inside the DAC, it has inside, you can plug a CD reader, from a computer. You can plug any memory stick, you can plug in a memory disk, and you can put in that disk all your music from a CD. And also you have the streamers that you add which service you want to have. Cobas, even Spotify or Tidal, or whatever YouTube has also some good stuff. So you add on these services and you control it from a tablet or whatever. And you have this solution that it's basically solves all the digital thing.
But it also sounds very analog to me when I was listening to it.
Yeah, it's part of the design. As you know, most of the digital circuitry is very well solved. We use a good DAC, obviously, but the main thing is that we use the integration, the output stage, the analog stage. It's within the ANA approach, and also the power supplies, and everything is different. We can go into details of design, but basically it complies with the idea of the ANA technology, which has to do with the engagement, music engagement.
So for those that are watching us and might not be familiar with the Margules brand, can you share a little bit about your company and the heritage?
Okay, it began almost 100 years, as I began to say, with my grandfather. It was not me. And this 100 years has been different stages. When my grandfather began, there was no much electronics around. It was just the beginnings of the radio and the electricity around the continent. And then my father took it over and started with more approach into the PA systems, and begins with the hi-fi in the 60s, 70s, and I took it over while I was studying engineering it was in the ends of the 80s and 90s. And since then I was looking into a high performance products because I like music and I like electronics, and I was formed that way, so it was like a natural path. So we have been working with different ideas. We developed in the 90s small satellites with subwoofers, active systems. That was much before they got into popular. We developed for the iPod in those days. That's later. That was in the 2000, in the beginnings of the iPod. iPod dock that you can control the iPod. We got from the first made for iPods, and you can still see it in the internet. Probably the high-end, we call them. So you stick in an iPod and you can control it with a glass. Like today you have it. We develop a screen that you can touch it with electric field instead of capacitance, and many things that we have learned through the years, and also because I had the opportunity to have kids around me with engineering, engineering students that I was guiding them and teaching them. So they also were part of they are still part of the company, that they come and they develop their skills and also help us to develop many different products in different fields.
What's next for you?
Well, we are working in the company with headphone amplifiers. We're making a bigger amplifier. We are making a smaller amplifier, 2 turntables that they are coming, and a bigger. We have this is the ones that we have here is the smallest of the high-end speakers we have. We have another ones which are already developed. They were mentioned as the best of the show in Florida. We are the big brothers of these ones, and we have to develop a bigger one, and also a server, music server, with a tube circuitry in the analog output.
That sounds exciting. And lastly, I just want to make sure we touch on, while you're doing all of these wonderful things in the hi-fi world, you also have a lot of products in the pro audio world as well.
Yeah, we do a lot of restaurants. We do a lot of bars. It happens to be that the 5 best, that they call 5 best bars, are in Mexico, and they have our products.
There has to be some correlation there, I'm certain.
It's about experience. Everything is our experience, and music, and it's part of your environment and your experience. It's fundamental, and even you can measure it. We had an exercise with a very good chef that he used to sell, and he has like his average ticket, and when we put the equipment into his restaurant, we measured how much increased in sales or decrease, and he got a 30% up his average ticket. Yes.
Just because they have better experience, so they spend
Correct.
more money and they enjoy themselves.
No, because you feel comfortable. Even if you don't listen to music, you feel comfortable, so you stay longer.
So you stay longer.
Yes.
And to come full circle, when you buy a hi-fi system or invest into a hi-fi system and you put it in your home, you want to have that experience where it's hard to get off the couch. You want it to be engaging and having a good experience, not fatigued.
Yes.
You want it to be engaging.
Yes.
So you stay longer.
Yes. It happens to me that a lot of the customers, including myself, you put this system and you plug it in, and instead of going to bed at 10 o'clock, you start going at 1, 2, 3 o'clock.
I don't know if that'll be spousal approved though, but
no, because she joins you.
She joins you.
Yeah, my wife is not an audiophile. She helps me at the company. She's the one that keeps the company running in the financial area, and it was very interesting that we put the equipment, and she uses it continually. She likes singing and dancing, and she sings and dances in the whole room.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's absolutely wonderful. Well, thank you so much for your time. We hope to have you back onto the channel, maybe to dive a little bit deeper into the technology and Anna. So hopefully we can have you back onto the show. But just to kind of wrap up for folks at home, where can they learn more about your product?
Obviously we have our webpage, margules.com, where basically all of the commercial products are there. We do a lot of custom stuff for different requirements in the pro audio, and also we have our Facebook and Instagram stuff.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, we'll put
Look
all
at the-
those links in the
in the Margules.
description.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Thank
yeah,
you very
absolutely.
much. I appreciate your,
It's been a pleasure.
and it has been a pleasure.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Julian.
thank you.
Thank you.